Alright, everybody, welcome back to Culz Book Reviews. Today we are checking out Billy the Kid's Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind by Joshua Slatten. And now, this is perfect for the channel because you see Billy the Kid, you see an extraterrestrial, and you see some wonderful art. You know we love art. And while this was written by Joshua, you can see it was illustrated by Angie there, so I just want to give some credit where credit is due. And like I said, this really is a mesh of two topics that we talk about quite often on the channel. I mean, Billy the Kid is our biggest topic. I think only dinosaurs kind of give Billy a run for his money on the channel. But aliens and extraterrestrials come up a lot, especially with our yearly trips down to Roswell, New Mexico. And yeah, we'll get into a little bit more of that towards the end. But for anyone that doesn't know, Billy the Kid was an outlaw within the New Mexico territory, though he did spend some time in Arizona as well. I should say he spent time on his own after he was orphaned in Arizona as well, after his mother passed away in Silver City, and he was eventually killed in Fort Sumner, New Mexico, by one Pat Garrett. Now that we've talked briefly about Billy, and if you want to know more about Billy the Kid for sure, playlist should be popping up now. We have tons of videos about Billy on the channel. What is a close encounter of the fifth kind, you might be asking? Well, a close encounter of the fifth kind is a interaction that is initiated by a human with an extraterrestrial. This kind of classification system was first started by J. Allen Hynek, another person we have talked about on the channel thanks to Project Blue Book. And if you guys have seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the Hollywood movie, directed by one Steven Spielberg, Mr. J. Allen Hynek actually makes a cameo in that film a couple times, I think. Now, his work didn't go up to CE4 or CE5. Those came in later, but it all kind of goes back to his research. So I guess with the basics out of the way, let's get into the book. Billy the Kid's Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind. Got some nice artwork of Billy and this extraterrestrial here. And then we got the author and illustrator. And then just citing there. And on the back here you see more awesome artwork depicting, obviously we got Billy, we got the extraterrestrial who does have a name. We'll get to that as we talk about the book. And then you do see a symbol here that you also see on the New Mexico state flag. It's an ancient symbol of a sun. And so, yeah, pretty fitting there. And right here, if you guys need, there's your ISBN. Alright, so this book goes to 58 pages, and it actually at the end has like notations and some actual history in this endnotes section here. So you'll see the numbers popping up as you read, and then at the end you can go and actually read the factual history. And we'll just kind of flip through. I don't want to spoil it because it is a shorter book. It's obviously made for a younger audience, but I still enjoyed it. I do want to say the artwork is fantastic without getting into spoilers. We'll start really early on. Obviously, you know, Billy Kid is going to meet this extraterrestrial. But I just love how the detail comes through, even in the printing. Like, if you look at it, it looks still kind of like it could be three-dimensional. So you can actually see some depth. Like it was an actual painting. Like up here you can see some of the dots. I love it. Like some fantastic art. Again, just some fantastic art. Here is Lincoln. You can see the house or the old Lincoln County Courthouse. Something that we've talked about. We've also showcased the Torion before. Now, unfortunately, at the beginning in the introduction, we do get this note. It's not based on a true story. But that's okay. The author, Joshua, put in there that he really wanted to help introduce some younger audiences to Billy. You know, he talks about young guns being inspirational to himself. I know something that we've heard kind of repeated was young guns for the Billy the Kid crowd, getting people involved. And being a father myself, I totally relate to wanting to share history to my daughter. And, you know, my daughter probably hears enough about Billy the Kid. I mean, she'll point out Billy the Kid stuff now. She's heard way too much, but I'm always for it. Let's help make the next generation interested in history, you know. We can only get so far, and at some point, hopefully, they can solve some of the stuff that we won't be able to, you know. And I know how much fun I've enjoyed history, and I hope others will as well. Having said all that, let's kind of go over my notes. So one thing I forgot, luckily I did note it here, in the introduction it talks about the Billy the Kid Historical Coalition. It's something we did talk about when we talked with James Townsend, and so I think they're doing wonderful work. Obviously they're putting a lot of work into marking some of these unmarked graves and keeping up just the Billy the Kid history. That's another step, you know, outside of just getting people interested. If we want them to be able to go see these locations or help the people in these stories' memories still continue, we have to help be caretakers. And so I think it's a wonderful thing the Coalition is doing. Now, the story starts off, Billy is riding back to Lincoln. Obviously, we saw that picture of him looking over, I guess he would have been up on the plateau there, on the mountains, looking down at the strip. Lincoln's just one road. All the buildings are lined up on it. But riding back to Lincoln, he sees the saucer, and that's where he meets the alien. Now, the alien's name is Ira, which the author Joshua states in the endnotes that Billy's lawyer was the reasoning for the name. We see that also reflected in where Ira has come from, which was the planet Upson, which you guys should know that name. Ash Upson was the ghost writer, secondary writer, main writer, whatever you want to say, of Pat Garrett's authentic Life of Billy the Kid, a story we've talked about, and someone that, if you want to know a little bit more about, I know John LeMay, our buddy, has written a good book about him. So he was one that lived in Roswell and was around all these folks. So it's another good little Easter egg or nugget written in there. Now, they do go on adventures and really kind of partake in all the kind of little pastimes you've heard Billy liked, be it riding on the range, kind of shooting at those glass bottles, glass jars, taking up some card games. Heard all those stories, and so it's neat to see that. I will say, without giving spoilers, Billy's actual history and actual story is, I think, nicely intertwined with the fictional story of the extraterrestrial, woven in, I think, nicely. And not to be a spoiler, but it does tie Ira to the 1947 famed Roswell crash, which, you know, at the end notes, Joshua does point out it took place quite a bit away from the actual town of Roswell and a lot closer to Corona, New Mexico. As you guys know, we've actually gone to Wade's Bar, or the outside of Wade's Bar, because it was closed down. But that's where Mac Brazel had actually taken the debris first, was to this bar. We're showing it around. That's when someone says, go tell the sheriff. And eventually he had to go tell the sheriff, which was in Roswell. So he had to drive all the way down there, really kind of go out of his way. But the name Roswell has really kind of stuck, even though it is quite a drive. I mean, we've made that drive for a Roswell little episode we made, and whew, it's a lot of nothing. Kind of gives you a little sense of what Billy was riding through, because, yeah, we might have roads and we have towns now, but when you get out in some of these really desolate dirt roads and you don't see people for a couple hours, you're like, wow, opens up your eyes for sure. The endnotes also talk about the Aurora incident, where a UFO was purportedly had crashed. There was an extraterrestrial who perished, and they buried the extraterrestrial in the cemetery. And this is something I know we've talked about on the channel. I always find it very fascinating. It's something I want to go see. But for now, since we haven't, if you do want some more information or to see that site for yourself, click the link above to go see David from Abnormal Voyages video on the Aurora crash and the gravesite of the alien that was said to have crashed there. Quite a fascinating story. And so, yeah, without getting too far into the book and really giving anything away, I do apologize if I spoiled anything. I was really trying hard not to. Obviously, it's 58 pages with the endnote section. It is made for younger kids, and it's something I think my daughter would enjoy reading. Or, I'd recommend if you have kids and you want to show them some Billy the Kid history, I recommend it. I saw some strange reviews on Amazon for it, and I don't agree with one of them. There was one that said it promotes smoking, and I don't see anywhere in this book it promoted smoking. So that is definitely a falsehood there. So if you wrote that comment, why? Just don't write things that aren't in there. Like, it didn't promote that. It's a fun story to help kids get interested in history. For older generations like us, yeah, perhaps we'll find our way, especially into the Wild West. But it's becoming more and more of a just genre that is kind of slowly fading. Something we talked about in our Django Unchained deep dive that we did with James B. Mills. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I am very pro. Let's get more people interested in the history and let's make it fun. If we make it fun, people will dig in and do what is classified as the dirty work of actually going through the documents, actually putting the time into it. But they gotta have that passion. You gotta help build that passion. And hey, I think it's a good book. I recommend it. I thought it would work well this week with the Roswell UFO parade going live on Monday, and then Margie K from MUFON going live on Friday. Kind of ties in the extraterrestrial theme, I suppose, this week, and still keeps that Billy theme alive as well. But until next time, guys, for more Culz book reviews, click that link to your left. For more about us here at Culz Paranormal, click that link to your right. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe. And let us know if you've read Billy the Kid, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. What did you think? And are you excited for our video that ties Billy the Kid to the 1947 crash via Pat Garrett?